Welcome to Seeking Numina. I'm your host, Elise Wells, and I invite you to connect with the sacred wild within and around you through Numina, or sacred sites around the world, and the wisdom they hold. Together, let's remember the old ways, build relationships with land spirits, and dare to reach out to the fairies. The sacred wild is inviting you to dance in the moonlight. Will you answer their call?
"2025 is here, and 2024 is behind us. And I wanted to do a recap of this incredible year that, for me, felt like multiple years. It changed my life, the trajectory of 2024, and I am so grateful to be here with you all in 2025. And I wanted to start the year with this kind of an authentic, unedited, me to you video, because this is how I want to give myself in 2025. This is how I want to show up as a priestess, teacher, and author in 2025. It's just me in conversation, making eye contact across the table with you. That's what I'm here to do. And in 2024, I had some incredible firsts. I had amazing opportunities that I took that led me to places of growth. I honestly, guys, when I tell you, I honestly did not know these were possible. When I share, watch to the end if you want to hear the most vulnerable one. I'm going to save it for the end because it's yeah, when you say impossible, this is like that. This is the definition to me. So 2024 for me began with uncertainty. I launched Year Ahead Tarot readings, which are back, by the way, and they ended up being my biggest seller in 2024. To this day, I get messages of people saying, "Oh my gosh, do you remember when you did my 2024 reading and February said this and then this said that and then, well, in February this happened and I found out late." And I'm like, oh my gosh, like these readings change people's lives. And that really set me on a trajectory of realizing how much I want to work with people and I want to experience their energy more than just once or twice at a workshop or, in a maybe more removed way on just Patreon. Or so this year I launched my first ever container, the Witch Codes, which was an 8-week course diving super deep into witchcraft, how to do it, how to raise energy. My custom method of raising energy, the spiral path, was part of that. And we built on it and we explored it and we went to the astral plane together and we meditated in trance. And it was so transcendent. The connections that we made in this container, the lifelong friendships that have come out of it. Even though that container wrapped up 2 weeks ago, we are still in that group chat, just going off, just sharing. And it was really special also to hear how people have connected outside of that. It ended up being even that some of the members lived near each other in real life and were able to run into each other. Just unbelievable, unbelievable. And it just confirmed so much for me about what I want to bring into 2025. But the things I'm most excited about that happened in 2024 and that are going to really come into fruition in 2025 is my writing. Sometimes I think people forget, and honestly, sometimes I do too, that I'm an author. That's my main thing. That's what I came to this earth to do, I think, is to write books that will last lifetimes and stay here on this beautiful planet as my legacy. And my first book, my novel, What the Water Remembers, is finally coming out this year, September 30th. And that is my witchy paranormal mystery that empowers witches in and out of the broom closet to step into their power and recognize what they can do. It is filled with practical magic, but the cool thing is it's also an unbelievably beautiful mystery. So it's kind of great because you don't even have to know anything about witchcraft and you'll enjoy this book. You also might be a seasoned witch yourself and it's going to feel so good to be seen. And that's why I wrote it, was because I was looking for a book like it. I could never find a book where the ghosts were seen as respected figures, and living creatures at one point, an animist's witchy perspective. And finally, there is a book like it because I wrote it. So I'm excited for people to finally read that after 4 years of it being finished. It's crazy to think about that. And in the beginning of 2024, I also got notice that my first nonfiction book is going to be published with Llewellyn. So Llewellyn is a huge publisher. They tend to be our favorite publisher on the Magic Kitchen podcast simply because their books tend to be amazing. So I actually, in the new moon, between the two full moons of August last year, because we had a blue moon in August of 2023, I actually wrote 70 pages of the book that would become Sacred Wild, an invitation to connect with spirits of the land. And I wrote 77 pages actually, and I sent it to Llewellyn. I sent my full proposal, did all the work, and I sent that by that second full moon. I wrote it in those, like, whatever that would be, 28 days. And it just flowed out of me. It's a long story that you'll read in the introduction of Sacred Wild when it comes out. And I told a bunch of my author friends, and they said, oh, why don't you submit it to us at Wiser? Why don't you submit it? And I said, I don't know. This is where it's supposed to be published. Like, I just know that. Like this, and they were like, that's crazy. Like, and that's like, behind the scenes writer's lore. You never only submit to one publisher. Like, that's crazy. That's not even good advice. And that's what I did. And it was like over 6 months at this point by February. And I got an email in February that it was accepted. And I started manifesting, okay, not only am I accepted, but I want this editor, I want this publicist. Like I manifested like the specifics within Llewellyn of like where I want to go. And y'all, it's happening. Like I got the dream editor, I've got an incredible cover team, and my favorite publicist at Llewellyn, shout out to Marcus, is my publicist. So I am just like over the moon about this whole thing. It to me is like the highlight of 2024 was working on this book and knowing that it's going to be out there. And I can't share anything, but I have seen a couple mock-ups of covers, and I'm so excited for you to read it. Like, I can't even believe it's like, it's coming fast. And that doesn't have a release date yet, but it's looking like autumn as well in 2025. So this year is going to be crazy because I'm going to have book tours for 2 books. And the other big thing that happened in 2024 that I wanted to share with you all is I was able to attend a conference, the first of its kind, called Mediterraneum 2024. And this was a conference all about Hellenic and Italian or Roman polytheism, and how in both our respective countries of Greece and Italy, we don't really have the recognition or respect of the government or the people for what we do. You've probably seen it on my Instagram, but it can actually be quite violent, the way that we are protested by the public. Due to Catholicism in Italy and Greek Orthodoxy in Greece, essentially creating quite a lot of propaganda around this. So we actually signed a Declaration of Rights together in June of 2024 and sent that to both governments, demanding equality, demanding recognition, and demanding to, as a legal religion, and demanding to have the rights to exist, which is crazy. Like in the West, we don't even have to think about that. Like there's no way that anyone would say I'm not allowed to call myself what I am. But in Greece, you can say that. In Italy, you can say that. And in Greece, it's actually on our ID cards what our religion is. We're identified by our religions because Greek Orthodoxy is the supremacy there. There's a national religion, which is a totally foreign concept in the West, and it's a lot to fight against. So this conference was something I'm very proud to have attended, and the people I've connected with, actually, we have some really big things planned for 2025 as well to continue our mission. So I'm excited to continue sharing about that this year. In that, I realized that I have a deeper legacy to the work I teach. I am a native Greek priestess. Sometimes it feels hard to step into that role, if I could just be honest and vulnerable, because I have multiple nationalities. I'm American as well. My accent is strongly American. I've lived in America more than I've lived in Greece, but I have been fortunate to spend almost every year of my life, spend at least a portion of it in Greece. And spending the past several years, 4 years now, living in Greece full time, has really, I think it's time to just stand up to the haters on that. And I'm a native Greek priestess. That's a fact. And my family comes from Arcadia, which is the region of Greece where Pan comes from. And as I continue this journey this year, and as I continue to integrate the journeys I had in 2024, particularly in the Chrysian Cave, which you can see in the Seeking Numina podcast, right here on YouTube. You can go back in season 1 and episode 5, I believe, and listen to that episode about that experience. Long story short, between my work with my conferences and the Declaration of Rights that we signed and my platform, as somebody international, I'm recognizing that I actually have more power to help Greece, to bring our native practices back. And that is what I'm committed to doing in 2025, is being that voice, that beacon, and that facilitator to do that. And to that end, in 2024, I launched my, for the first time, one-on-one spiritual facilitation, sacred pilgrimages at the sacred sites. So I spent the summer of 2024 blessing people and anointing them in the Castalia Springs at Delphi, meditating with them in the goddess temple there, taking people to Hecate's cave and descending with them and experiencing the energy of Eleusis. I took people to the temple of Artemis. I got to see people meet the goddesses that they have worked with in their home countries for years. I got to see them meet them on the land that they are from. And that is the biggest blessing I've had since I began. Like truly, it's a blessing. The most unexpected blessing that I've been able to witness is the way people have this opportunity when they come to Greece to meet the gods and goddesses they love so much, these relationships they've fostered so deeply, the sacrifice, the offering that it is to pilgrimage to visit their holy lands in Greece. And for me, as the local who has a deep connection with those spaces and these places through years of facilitation, Artemis and I have been connected since I was a very small child. Same with Hephaestus, actually, and Apollo. And being able to bring people to their sacred sites, it's just been such a blessing. And I'm amping that up in 2025 with more day retreats throughout May and June, as well as my Delphi retreat at the end of April 27th to May 2nd, taking you to Delphi, Livadia, and some other oracles that we're going to deepen our intuition when we connect with them there. So 2024 was really a time where I stepped into my priestesshood in ways I hadn't really before. And last thing real quick, the Magic Kitchen podcast actually got down to number 19. Number 19 in spirituality in the United States of America. We are regularly a top 20. Rankings change every single day. But at one point we were number 19. Right now I think we're hovering around 23. And thank you for listening to the Magic Kitchen. If you do. I also launched the Seeking Numina podcast and Cosmic Theater Mystery School, which I co-host with Megan Plummer. So I have 2 new podcasts in 2024. And I also continued writing, which I'm sure you saw. And one of my favorite things that I'm excited to share, which I think I've shared as well on social media, is that I was published in the New Aradia series, which is produced by Laura Tempest-Zakrov and Revelore Press, who publish anthologies every year or two on resilience and resistance to oppression. And I wrote a piece on nature spirits as non-binary spirits and how they can show up to aid us in fighting oppression. So that was a really special gift to be able to be a part of as well. Okay, it's time for that vulnerable thing that I've been putting off for this video. I have struggled with embodiment most of my life. And I won't go into it too much here, the whole childhood backstory, but my whole life I've been overweight. I've always been a plus size girl. And I've also been tall, so I've been both kinds of plus size. So I've always just been the biggest person in the room. It's just who I've always been. And I went on my first retreat in 2024 to the sacred sites of France, connected with Mary Magdalene. And in February, I actually had a client who was interested in Mary Magdalene. And so we started reading a book together called Mary Magdalene Revealed, and by Meg Watterson. And it led me to creating the red thread, to recognizing that I was a part of the red thread, which is what I call the common thread between goddesses like Inanna, Aphrodite, Cybele, Ishtar, Isis, and Mary Magdalene. These goddesses that live along a lineage of empowerment, and they've often been called dark goddesses, and they are the focus of the red thread, my container beginning January 22nd. And this red thread, as I traced it, I recognized Mary Magdalene was a part of it. And so this retreat, I ended up meeting up with, I connected with Natalia Dunn on Instagram, Unleash the Goddess on Instagram, and saw she was hosting this retreat. And it was an instant soul yes. I recognized in my work with the red thread, starting with this Mary Magdalene book, recognizing her commonalities with Inanna pretty quickly as I'm reading it, and then recognizing, wait, there's other goddesses with this. And so I started visiting more sacred sites in Greece with this intention of figuring that out. And that was when I started getting these messages that I needed to focus more on embodiment, literally being in my body. I've spent so much of my career, my spiritual path, my writing, you know, I do a lot of meditating. I'm always working in trance. I'm on the astral. I'm reading books. I'm learning. I'm attending conferences. I'm taking classes. But what I've been missing forever, and I knew it, was embodiment. I've just ignored the body. But we have a human experience. We're here to have this human experience. And so I realized on this retreat, and through my work with the red thread and recognizing Inanna and many of these goddesses, dark goddesses, as in their connection to sex work and how that is so tied up in the body, you know, like the physical world, like really diving into the depths of that. I realized I needed to lose some weight. And I am naturally an overweight person, so I'm not looking at the BMIs and chasing ideals that aren't mine. They're not for me, but I needed to focus on getting healthy, on having more stamina, on breathing deeper, on having better lung capacity. All the things that would actually, as I did them, I realized actually made me a better spiritual practitioner as well. It's called mind, body, spirit for a reason, right? And this year that really clicked for me. And on this retreat in France with Natalia, I released limiting beliefs and fears around being seen that not only have not come back, they've successfully disappeared from my life, but they've also allowed me to shed with relative ease 55 pounds. Since May 2nd, I've lost 55 pounds, and it is January 2nd. So that is like 7 months. And that kind of quantum growth can only happen when you marry the spiritual to your mundane life, when you recognize that there is no separation, and that you commit to this path so deeply and fully that you listen to the soul yeses, even if you have excuses. I mean, for me to go on this retreat was insane. I really had no time. I really did not have the budget for it at the time. I also was struggling to find a way to make it work date-wise. Like I was reading tarot at the Athens Irish Festival, literally like up to 12, like less than 12 hours before my flight. And then I had to get back to work. I had some day retreats planned right away on my return. Like it was literally like there was almost no way I could have done it. Finances as well. And my soul was like, but you have to, but you absolutely have to. And now I know why. I mean, the experiences I've had since have just been unbelievable. I was able to visit more sacred sites in 2024. I went to Poland, where I was actually able to meet. I went 100 meters below ground to salt mines outside of Krakow, and was able to see salt Madonnas, like goddesses made of salt. And so many other sacred places in Poland. Poland is an unbelievably spiritual place. Can't recommend it enough. I went throughout France with Natalia. I went throughout Greece. I went back to Malta, which is super, super dear to my heart. And yeah, the craziest thing, it's very vulnerable for me to talk about my body. Like I never want to be identified with this, you know. To me, this is the shell. It's not who I am. This soul inside has looked so many different ways, has been different genders, different ages, different identities, different roles in society, so many different times. And I just never wanted to be identified that way. But I think it's time to move out of that. And in 2025, there's so much coming. There's so much opportunity for growth, for the priestess path to invite you to step onto it. And I hope that as you sit with who you are, and maybe that's something you haven't done in a while. Who are you? What kind of person are you? Are you the kind of person who has tea or coffee? Who travels or who doesn't? What do you like to do for fun? Where do you like to go? And if you're like, oh, I haven't done or gone anywhere in a long time, maybe that's some of the calling too. What ruts are you in that you need to get out of? What exploration do you want to do that for some reason you're timid to begin? Maybe that timidity is coming from you recognizing that change is coming when you step into that new path. And change is so good. Change is so good. When I think of all the things that changed in 2024, sometimes I forget that people are so afraid of change. You know, people will be like, oh, well, I don't want to change anything. Oh, I don't want to have to change that. Oh, I wouldn't want to have to deal with any changes later. You know, like we say that word all the time. Like we make change a negative thing in so many ways, and it's not. It's the only guaranteed thing in our lives. And so if we can learn to see it positively and recognize our agency in it, that we're in control of those changes, they're nothing but good. And that was my biggest takeaway from 2024, is that change truly never has to be bad, but it is going to always happen. And so that is my wish for you in 2025. I hope you find the changes that you want to make. I hope you learn the things about yourself that you want to double down on and be stronger and bigger and better than ever. And I hope I can be a part of that. If you're looking to work more deeply with the Dark Goddesses, join us January 22nd for the Red Thread. Early bird ends the 15th. There's more information on seekingnumina.com/the-red-thread. And you can also join me on Patreon and support Seeking Numina and all of the work and writing and my book tours and all the things coming up that I will be doing. And I have a couple more events planned for the year, so stay tuned. And year ahead tarot readings are also available. So I would love to work with you, talk with you, be a part of your journey this year. And I hope 2025 is the best year yet. Blessed be.
Thank you for seeking Numina with me today. Join me at patreon.com/Elise Wells to support this show and get access to a library of rituals, exclusive videos, meditations, and more. To learn more about my upcoming retreats, book a tarot reading, or learn with me in workshops, classes, or mentorship, visit seekingnumina.com.